What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Unfiltered, the place where we talk about real stuff, raw truth, no fluff, no filters, and no playing nice just to keep people comfortable. And today, I'm just going to tell you, buckle up because I'm going to go straight at something nobody wants to admit, but trust me, everybody needs to hear. Before I get into this, let me just remind you, follow me on all social media, click the subscribe button below, tag somebody in this that you might think needs to hear it because it's going to be a doozy. Let me go ahead and begin. Our culture has completely collapsed when it comes to discipline and commitment. Here's what I'm saying. We don't finish anything, we don't start everything, and we complain about everything, and we endure nothing. And quite frankly, I'm tired of watching good people sabotage their own lives because they have the pain tolerance of a wet tissue. You know what I'm saying? Let's get into it. And if you can't handle this truth, just go ahead and turn this off right now so I don't offend you. I'll wait. All right. If you're still here, welcome to the Unfiltered podcast. And today I'm going to talk about our culture. Here's the first point I got for you, and that is the culture of quitting. That's what our culture is today. We live in a world where quitting is normal. Not just normal, it's actually celebrated. People quit their jobs, they quit their marriages, their friendships, their churches, their fitness goals, their new habits, their financial plans, their dreams and commitments they made just 3 days ago. They quit. We all know that in January, which is right around the corner, we're all going to make New Year's resolutions. We're going to make all these new commitments. We're going to set all these new goals. And they tell you by the third weekend in January, people already quit. Why? Because it got hard. Because someone hurt their feelings. Because the results weren't instant. And because someone didn't clap for them or celebrate them or pat them on the back the first week in. We live in an era of a 15-second attention span. Some of you already probably scrolling on your phone and looking at Facebook as you're listening to me when you should be watching me and fully paying attention. The 3-day commitment and the lifetime of excuses. That's the era we're living in. And people say, I just don't feel like it anymore. I'm just not motivated. I'm overwhelmed. I need to protect my peace. No, let's be honest with each other this morning. Some people don't need to protect their peace. They don't need to protect their discipline, and they don't need to protect their character. What they need is to stop quitting every time something requires a little bit of effort. I think motivation can be a joke. There's nothing wrong with being motivated in the very beginning. We got to go to each other from time to time. But let me tell you, motivation is not what builds a life. It's discipline. Discipline is what builds a life, and it's a life worth fighting for. Here's the second point I have for you today, and that is the problem isn't the pressure, it's the people. Everyone today talks about the pressure like it's the enemy. No, pressure is what builds every great thing in your life. The pressure grows your faith. It strengthens your character. It develops your perseverance. It reveals your maturity, and it exposes your excuses. What breaks people today is not pressure. It's their lack of tolerance of the pressure. We have more comfort than any generation in our history, and yet we're the weakest when it comes to it, right? I mean, I was just talking about going hunting, and I was telling somebody the other day that I'm just at that stage in my life where I really don't want to go sit out in freezing cold weather for hours. I would rather be in a box heated with a heater where I can drink my coffee, scroll on Facebook, and watch for deer to go by. That's the comfort we have gotten ourselves to because why? The other part of hunting, sitting out in a tree stand with no real padded seat, freezing cold, for hours upon hours with no coffee, no phone, guess what? That's hard. And we just like comfort. We have no emotional endurance. We have no follow through. We have no consistency. We don't even honor commitments anymore. We don't do what we say we would do. And what people want is the reward of all these things without the responsibility, and the blessing without the burden, the platform without the process, and the success without the sacrifice. So let me say it very clearly today. If you can't handle pressure, then you can't handle purpose, period. Here's the third point. People don't count the cost anymore. We live in a world where people want to sign up for everything as long as it doesn't actually cost anything, as long as it's convenient for them. We talk about this here at Roots Church. If you're going to serve on a team, that is your choice. But if you serve on a team, we're asking you to sacrifice the things you love for the thing that you love more, and that is serving people. People jump into businesses all the time. They jump into ministry. They jump into marriages and responsibilities and leadership and coaching and all these fitness programs and all these spiritual commitments and how many books I'm going to read and all these different things. But you know what they don't do when they think about that is they don't count the cost of what it's going to take to do those things. So when the cost shows up, they go, oh, I didn't know this was required to do it myself. Really? I mean, what did you think a commitment was? Commitment means you show up when you don't feel like it. A commitment means you sacrifice when it hurts. A commitment means you stick with it even when it gets boring. A commitment is honoring what you said long after that feeling left. You know, the honeymoon feeling when everything's really good in the beginning, but after about 6 months, it starts to get really hard. Heck, I would say most marriages get hard after about the first 3 months, and people are already ready to quit because they didn't think it was going to be like this. We can't be commitment, okay? Or we can't have this lack of commitment. Commitment isn't emotion-based. It is character-based. We don't need more passion. What we need more backbones. Point number 4, discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. People hear the word discipline and think, oh man, that sounds really legalistic. It sounds really rigid or controlling. I heard somebody say one time that having the culture of excellence is all about control. No. Discipline is freedom. Let me say that again. Discipline is freedom. Why? Because a disciplined life actually protects you from being an addict. It protects you from an impulsive decision. It protects you from emotional instability, financial deconstruction, spiritual drift, and most importantly, relational chaos. Did you know why people, or do you know why people are stressed, broke, tired, burnt out, anxious, and constantly frustrated? It's because they won't discipline their schedule, their mouth, their money, their habits, their relationships, their appetites, their spiritual life. They won't discipline any of those things. And discipline isn't the enemy. Undisciplined living is the enemy. So what am I saying? Quit making excuses. Life gets easier when you get harder on yourself. I'm not talking about being toxic. I'm not talking about being abusive. I'm talking about just being consistent. It's the small, smart choices over time that equals great results. So here's point number 5. We've raised a generation that confuses feelings with facts. That's right. We live in a world where we just feel this, feel that. And if you feel it, then you do it. But here's the truth. Your feelings are not the CEO of your life. If you only do what you feel like doing, you're going to build a life that you never really wanted. A life of laziness, a life of lack, boring, lame. And here's what people say. Well, I don't feel connected anymore in my relationship, so I'm just going to move on. Or I don't feel passionate anymore about serving in this area or about the job that I have. And, I'm not feeling the spark like I used to. Or better yet, they'll say, I feel overwhelmed. Hey, welcome to life. Welcome to all the things that we got to endure in life. Being married, paying the bills, going to work, dealing with health. Hello, that's part of it. So what? Feelings are real, don't get me wrong, but don't act on them. Christians don't go by their feelings. They make choices based on what the Word of God says and what we know we're supposed to do. Maybe you do, and that's why you're stuck where you are, because you base everything on your feelings. All your decisions are made on your feelings, and that is why you continue to be stuck. Told you it wasn't going to be easy to hear this today, but here's what I will encourage you to do. Do it anyway. Show up to your job, show up to serve anyway. Honor God anyway. Even when you don't think it's right, even when you don't think it's fair, honor God anyway. Honor your word anyway. Even when you've overcommitted, you got to suck it up, Buttercup. That's your own fault for overcommitting, but you need to honor your word, even if it costs you something else. Keep building anyway. Keep committing anyway. Your feelings will catch up to your discipline, not the other way around. When you discipline yourself and you make these decisions, your feelings will catch up. Feelings follow obedience, not the other way around. Here's another point. The truth, the harsh truth, most people aren't committed. They're interested. They're interested in a new job. They're interested in a relationship. And there's a massive difference between interest and commitment. Interest says, I'll do it as long as it's easy. Commitment says, I'll do it when it's hard. Interest says, I'll start, but commitment says, I'm going to finish. Interest says, I'll try it, but commitment says, I'm going to do this. Are you following what I'm saying? There's a huge difference in the mindset. Interest is emotional, but commitment is spiritual. And here's the kicker. If you're not disciplined in the small things, God will not trust you in the big things. There's a scripture on that. Be faithful in the small things, God will give you more. Now, I paraphrase that, but that's what he's saying. You can't pray for a big life when you're living in small habits. All right, here's the closing challenge. I don't want to be long today because this is tough, and I need to give you bite-sized chunks. So let me end the day with the challenge, and it's a bold one. Are you ready for it? Where in your life have you been quitting? What have you been giving up on? Where have you let the excuses become your identity? Well, that's just my past. That's just the way it is for me. I'm always down and out. Really? That's who you are? That's the identity that you want to become? Where have you allowed your convenience to destroy your calling? Where have you traded your discipline for emotion? Where have you walked away because it got difficult? And more importantly, what will you do today to reverse it? Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready, but today. Because your future spouse needs a committed version of you. Your kids need a disciplined version of you. Your calling needs a consistent version of you. Your church, they need a dependable version of you. And your purpose, it needs a resilient version of you. Remember, discipline isn't punishment. Commitment isn't bondage. Consistency isn't oppression. They are all the pathway to the life God actually called you to live. Enough with the excuses, enough with the feelings, and enough with the quitting. It is time to build some spiritual muscle. It is time to develop a backbone. It is time to follow through, and it is time to get disciplined. Let's not wait till January. Let's start now, right before the holidays begin. Let's start eating healthy. Let's start exercising. Let's start reading our books. Let's not wait till January 1. Let's start now, because anything in your life worth having will require a version of you worth becoming. Okay, I think I said enough. I've been a little bit unfiltered today, and it's been a while since I've been a little bit spicy, but I felt like being spicy today. Why? Because I love you, and I'm not going to let you get soft on me. You want the hard truth, you want to be challenged, then come back to Unfiltered in a couple weeks. and we'll see what I have for you. But until then, don't quit. Don't give up. Trust the Lord. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways, acknowledge him. We'll see you next time.